sending that energy. And then people begin to understand. People begin to respond. People begin to, and then things begin to change. This is what the Dalai Lama is talking about. Forgiveness, blessings, love. Yeah, it's what all the great teachers are talking about. It's what Master Jesus talked about. Turn the other cheek. Right? His last 10 words, there he is. He's nailed on the cross. Terrible, hard way to die. Crucifixion. A person drowns. They asphyxiate because the lungs can't fully expire out, and so the moisture accumulates, and then the lungs slowly fill with water. So it's a very long-term sort of thing. So there he is in all that kind of pain. And what's he say? His last 10 words? Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And so there he is. He's taken this message and he's sent it through the timeline, and it's still as valid today as it was 2,000 years ago. These people, they're there and they're doing this thing to them, and they're not fully understanding who it is this person is and what they're doing. And so he realizes this, and he goes, yeah, well, they don't know any better. So, in a sense, they're forgiven. And in a sense, they're innocent. And so, therefore, if they're innocent, they deserve to be forgiven. Because if they really knew better, they wouldn't be doing this to this person. It's the same thing with criminals. Criminals do criminal actions because at the time, even though intellectually they may know that what they're doing is wrong and so on and so forth, but they don't fully understand the whole consequence, the whole thing, and so they do their act, and then so that's why the jail system, what it's about, is supposedly to get people to think about the errors of their ways.
But what happens if it's unlawful?
Yeah, that's where spiritual activism comes in.
What would you do if you had a friend in jail?
Yes. Well, I brought a book. I brought a book for you. I brought a book to send to this person that I just heard about.
You can't send any books unless it's sent by chapters. So you got to pay chapters prices and then send it.
Excellent.
So if you want to send books to them, you can just order it from chapters.
Excellent.
I'll give you the address.
Perfect. That's great. Yeah, because Chapters is a big mail order place that can handle this kind of stuff. That's excellent, because then that's neutral. And then that way there's no suspicion about, perhaps maybe some of the.
But what happens if I want to send them books, but I got no money? I got books, but I got no money for chapters.
Well, if we don't have money, then there's a disconnect in our ability to manifest. And so that's something that we need to work on. Because in order to be really, really effectively spiritually, it is a really good idea to have a certain amount of wealth. Because with that wealth, then a person can afford to dedicate this time to doing the study, to dedicate the time to be able to buy the books, to attend the workshops, to so on and so forth, to travel to the places where these gatherings are. And so that's why we need to take care of not only the spiritual world, but we need to take care of our physical world. So we have a responsibility to our physical body as we have to our spiritual body. So we need to feed the body, supply it with food, so that it has enough energy to be able to sustain itself. We need to...
What happens if people are willing to serve for free and all they need is a place to live and eat, and they don't want to actually work for money?
Yes.
They want to serve God. That's it. They don't want to charge. They'll live with nothing. They just serve God all the time.
Yes.
But there is a way for for them to get fed and have a place to stay.
Yeah.
It's just a reorganization of certain things. See, under the fiat-based debt currency, I see money as a problem because there's a scam within it that sort of take the money out of most people's hands.
It's something it's a system that has kind of gone. It's been misdirected. Essentially, in the beginning of the creation of money, there was a divine plan with it, and so it's been messed around with. So, like, there's popular belief that the money is the root of all evil. Well, that's an inappropriate belief system. Sure, evil happens around money and the acquisition of money and so on and so forth. But that's people choosing.
But what happens if you remove the stresses of most people trying to make a living, and they were actually living a good life? Would they want to do crime if all their needs were taken care of?
Well, then we need to have some sort of exchange, because
a different currency.
Well, okay, for example, for our minerals to create the metal to make the vehicle, who's going to be the person that's going to go down in the mine and dig the ore out of the ground?
It's a community co-op.
Okay. And so, how does that,
The community co-op is linked to regional and national, but they have different autonomous decision-making processes based upon the need in the place where something is happening to sort of totally revamp, because you can't have an organization different from a community, different from a water region. If you're connecting a water system together, everyone needs to sort of participate in one whole network. And so the way we organize right now doesn't do that. And if we did, we'd have a much different connection, because everyone would be in a communication network that's actually based upon the universal law.
Well, there's definitely room for improvement with the system that we have, and that's why this whole groundswell, of people demonstrating in the street, the Occupy movement. I mean, what that came up with was somebody had the idea that we need to make a statement, and so people picked that up. These dissatisfied people by the millions, they picked this up. And they stepped forward and they said, the way business is done is not correct. My understanding is that was the bottom line message of the whole Occupy thing. And then a step further with that was this desire to see appropriate change. Yes. And then where it gets into the gray zone is what should we do? And that's the conundrum. That's the difficulty. Is okay. We realize there's a need for focus on this. We're responding to that. Now, what should we do? Well, those answers, they come once a person. So I'm very, very supportive of what it is that this, these people stepping out and demonstrating, making a statement to the world, because that's the prelude to the change, to the beneficial change. And if it needs repeating, and that's sometimes what it needs to happen. Is it's like, we've got to keep the message going or we've got to find some other way until finally the decision gets up to where the command center is, and then the command center decides, does an analysis of, well, we're in dysfunction here, productivity is down, da-da-da-da, we cannot continue the way we are, okay, so we need to make change, da-da-da-da, because there's this revolt that's happening. Why is the revolt happening? Because things are not efficient. Okay, why are things not efficient? Okay, because it's the way business is done, the way money, notes of currency, notes of promissory notes of exchange. I do this, and in return, I receive that. Here is a piece of paper that is units of energy in exchange for units of product. And so, like in the old days, we used to barter. I'll come over, work at your place, chop your, some firewood. You give me some milk from your cow, and so on and so forth, etc., etc. Well, we're 7 billion people now? Well, it's a little difficult to do that direct bartering system. So, money, currency, was invented to kind of, but then opportunity for, it's back to that same thing with transmutation of sexual energy. It's transmutation of inappropriate energy, inappropriate, something is out of balance, like greed. There's opportunity for greed to be there, and the greed gets so big that the compassion, the heart level, is by comparison too small. So we need to bring all that into balance, so that as we're giving, we're also receiving. So we're this equal energy exchange comes in. And people get into this greed stuff because they're in this state of not knowing, and doing inappropriate behavior. There's an eagle picking up a fish.